Greater love has no one than this, that someone laid down his life for his friends. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's more than just a Monday that you get off. Towards the end of Ronald Reagan's presidency, he had a memorial service for some sailors that had lost their lives. And he says this in part, "And let us remember a final duty, to understand that these men made themselves immortal by dying for something immortal. That theirs is the best to be asked of any life, a sharing of the human heart, a sharing of the infinite. In giving themselves for others, they made themselves special, not just to us, but to their God. Greater love than this has no man than to lay down his life for his friends." It's a day to remember those that lost their lives in service to this country. You know, it's because of that sacrifice of men and women that you and I are able to gather together here on a Sunday morning and worship without fear of being barged in on and shut down. There are many countries around the world that don't have this freedom. And the only way that our freedom is secured is by the men and women that have gone and given their lives for you and I. I saw just the other day in China where the government is doing another crackdown on churches, specifically crosses. So any house of worship that displays any cross, they've gone in and they've torn them down and trashed them. They don't have the freedom that you and I have. It's so easy to take for granted sometimes the freedom that we have. So today we remember those that gave their life. Because greater love has no one than this. They lay their lives down for their friends. Jeremiah chapter 20, starting in verse 1. Let me read a couple of these verses to you. Now Pashur the priest, the son of Immer, who was the chief officer in the house of the Lord, heard Jeremiah prophesying about these things. Then Pashur beat Jeremiah the prophet and put him in stocks that were in the upper Benjamin gate of the house of the Lord. The next day when Pashur released Jeremiah from the stocks, Jeremiah said to him, "The Lord does not call your name Pashur, but terror on every side." Would you give your life for someone else? Are there people in your life that you would gladly give your life for? I mean, some of that is easy, right? I mean, you think if you have kids, I think every parent would say, I would give my life for my kids. I know I would. I would gladly take on death so that none of my kids would have to experience that. I would gladly do it. Did you see this weekend about that 4-year-old boy that fell into the gorilla enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo? 4-year-old boy at the enclosure there somehow gets through the bars and falls 12 feet down into the moat inside of the gorilla enclosure. And this massive gorilla, his arms were literally that huge, goes to this little boy. And I'm watching this, they have video of it. And I'm thinking, if that was my child, I would be in that moat. I would jump in that moat and I would do everything I could do to protect my child. I would give my life. And I'm watching the video and I'm thinking, where are the parents? Where are the people? They ended up, the boy was okay. Surprised, I don't know, surprisingly. After the gorilla threw him around, I don't know how they even watched it. Threw the little boy around. I thought, man, I would give my life. Some of that's easy. But would you give your life for your friends? Your family? How about your coworkers? Would you give your life for neighbors? Would you give your life for complete strangers? It's about self-sacrifice. That's what it is. To sacrifice self is to give your life for others. Putting yourself second. Lowering yourself below others. Going back to the end of the line. And in our character study of Jeremiah, we have seen that Jeremiah is someone who would gladly sacrifice himself for others. We've seen it over and over as we looked, and we'll see it throughout the rest of Jeremiah. Jeremiah gives all that he has. No, he does it with complaining, a lot of complaining, but he does it. And he does it because God has asked him to do it. And so he does. He sacrifices over and over and over again. He endures everything that is thrown at him. Then one day, Jeremiah comes face to face with someone that is the complete opposite of him. If you remember last week, we talked about the potter. And the potter and his clay. If you missed that message, I'd encourage you to go back and you can watch it online. If you remember, Jeremiah has just been at the potter's house. He's watched the potter shape and mold and then crush the clay and start again when the clay wouldn't cooperate. And so Jeremiah has been to the potter's house, and he goes and he gets many of the leaders to follow him out onto the outskirts of town, several hundred yards past the city itself, down into a valley. And in this valley of Hinnom was a garbage dump. Do you know what a garbage dump smells like? You ever smelled a garbage dump? There is no way to get that smell out of your nostrils. I don't know, where my parents live, you have to drive past a garbage dump to get to their house or back into their neighborhood. And I remember when they put that garbage dump in, man, the community was livid. They were so upset. And so to help the community out, so to say, to get this garbage dump in, you can't actually see the garbage dump. So what they've done is they have made great big hills that encompass all of the garbage. So all you see is beautiful green grass and beautiful trees that line it. And even along the fence that circumnavigates the entire thing is a mister. And it mists scent like pina colada. It could be new car for all I know. I don't know. But it smells like a big old dump with pina colada. It's like somebody threw away a huge tractor full of air fresheners. You can't get the smell. It's as if they're trying to cover up the smell of the dump with this horrific pina colada smell, and it just makes it worse. You can't overcompensate for the smell of the dump. It's overwhelming. And even if they put up trees and hills, you still know it's there. You're not fooling anybody. And so was this place where Jeremiah takes the leaders. They smell it before they see it. So he takes them to the valley there at Hinnom, and it's a horrible place. If you remember, for decades before, the king had embraced idolatry and sacrifice and child sacrifice. This was the place that people would go and offer children as sacrifice. And not a lot had changed. Some of the people were still going to the valley of Hinnom, the garbage dump, and offering children as sacrifice to whatever god they thought they could please to win favor. And so it's in that setting that Jeremiah is standing there with these leaders all around him. The smell of garbage and decay is just overwhelming. And so he brings them out there as he holds the jar in his hand, and he begins to tell them God's plan for the people. And if you remember the last few weeks, we have talked about how on the outside there was reformation. On the outside, they had cleaned up their act, but on the inside, nothing had actually changed. And so Jeremiah has brought these leaders out and he's exposing them to the stink of this dump. And he's trying to draw a parallel with their lives and what they're doing in this sin. And he's saying, God has more for you than this. That the lives have to be changed on the inside, just like you've changed on the outside. And not just through religious ceremony. There has to be a corresponding change on the inside. Not just religion, but actual change. And he accused them of just going along with whatever religion. After all, they were still doing human sacrifices. And he's saying, you're still doing the same stuff as you used to. Just going along with whatever you think works. And then Jeremiah picks up the pottery and he smashes it. You're wondering if I'm going to smash it, aren't you? I'm afraid if I smash it, it'll just bounce right back up. And that's not good visuals. So he takes it and he smashes it. And he says, this is you. God is going to smash you. God is going to scatter you. And no one will be able to put the pieces back together. Well, that's not what they wanted to hear. They're standing there in a dump. The smell of decay around them. They've just been they thought they're doing fantastic. Jeremiah is not popular. Jeremiah is not popular with the people. And he has just shown them that their entire life is a shambles. And he says, God's going to deal with you harshly. And he's going to scatter you. There will be no room for repair in your life. You have gone so far. And God will just destroy. He said, and you'll be burying bodies out here by the thousands in this dump. Well, how many know that got around? I mean, it began to spread like wildfire throughout the people. And the word got back to the chief overseer of the temple. And his name was Pashur. When Pashur found out what had happened, Pashur beat Jeremiah the prophet and put him in stocks that were in the upper Benjamin gate of the house of the Lord. He humiliated Jeremiah, beat him in front of the people, put him in stocks and chains in the middle where everybody could walk by and see him, and made him a laughing stock. Now, on the outside, they looked very similar. They were both men of religion. Both represented God. Both claimed to speak on behalf of God. Both were overseers. Both claimed to be concerned for the future of Israel. They had a lot in common on the outside, but in practicality, they couldn't have been any more different. Pashur, chief overseer of the temple. He was a popular guy. He was well liked. His job was to make sure that there weren't any false prophets, to make sure everybody behaved, that anyone that claimed to represent God did what they were supposed to. He was one of those people that told everybody, everything's fine. We've had the Reformation, we've cleansed the country, everything's good. There's no problems here. I'm okay, you're okay, hey, we're all okay. Pashur was liked. It was his job to take people that were troublemakers like Jeremiah and punish them. Those who claimed to be prophets, and he punished them and put them in chains. And the world was falling apart all around Pashur, but he was concerned about appearances. He was concerned that people just kept doing what they were doing. He was concerned about being liked. He was concerned about the perception that people had of him. Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians were on the doorstep, ready to take them into captivity. And Pashur's going, everything's good. There's no problems. So when Jeremiah begins to point out the corruption, the rebellion, Pashur couldn't handle it. So he had Jeremiah seized and beaten and chained and humiliated. And after Jeremiah was released, did it change Jeremiah? Jeremiah's message was the same. In fact, it was even more harsh, because he looked at Pashur and he says, your name is no longer Pashur. Your name is terrible on every side. Terror all around you. That's your new name. How'd you like that for a name? Terror all around you, Joshua Long. He said, that is who you are. You're a terror to everyone you come in contact with. But why? What was it about Pashur? Jeremiah chapter 8 gives us a little insight into the priests like Pashur, those that were religious. Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 10 says, this is God talking, I will give their wives to others and their farms to strangers. From the least to the greatest, their lives are ruled by greed. Yes, even my prophets and priests are like that. They're all frauds. They're superficial treatments for my people's mortal wounds. They give assurances of peace when there is no peace. Are they ashamed of these disgusting actions? Not at all. They don't even know how to blush. They tell you what you want to hear. These priests like Pashur are not concerned about the reality of sin or the reality of rebellion in the people's lives. They're more concerned with appearances. People are bleeding out. People are dying all around them. They're mortal wounded, and they're just giving them Band-Aids. They're telling them, peace, peace, everything's fine, when the world around them is crumbling and they're about to be taken into captivity and die. But everything's fine. It echoes Paul's letter to Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. And the word says, for the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but have itching ears. They will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. If we're not in that time, I don't know when that time is coming. There are those that will gather, those that will put themselves under teachers or pastors that will tell them exactly what they want to hear. They'll tell them what makes them happy. They won't tell them the sin or what needs to change in their life or what God can do or that God's not pleased. They tell them exactly what they want to hear. But they surround themselves with this. They don't even want to hear sound teaching. They don't want to hear the truth. They just want to be rubbed and caressed and said, you're okay. Saul Ryder, I can't remember his name, had put it this way. He says, those are pastors who are both pastors and masseuses at the same time. They just want to massage you and make you feel good, just as much as they want a pastor. But Jeremiah, if you remember back, Jeremiah is called to tear down. Remember this, to destroy, to call the nation to repentance, to ensure that the return to God isn't just for show, but that it's real. People want what's real. The world around us is craving real. They don't want any of this fake stuff. They don't want any of this Band-Aid stuff. They don't want just to be glossed over. There are people that are hurting, people that are dying, that want to know what's real. You can't turn on TV or anything and you see so much supernatural. As people search and long and try to grasp and take hold of those things that are supernatural, hopefully there's something beyond me. Hopefully there's something beyond this pain. Hopefully there's something beyond this brokenness. Hopefully there's something more than this. They are looking, they are searching, they are trying to grasp for something real. And yet we want to gloss over and pretend and act like this place is just a country club or a cruise ship, or we just come and gather together and everything's good and everything's fine and we're just happy to be here. There's two types of people. Two types of people in churches today. There are Pashurs and there are Jeremiahs. Now, Pashur people, well, they're those that just want to be entertained. Those that see church as an institution to just come and feel good about themselves. Learn how to be successful in life. Learn how to be happy every day. Not joyful, but just happy. Want to learn how to become what they want to be, not what God desires them to be. They're here to be entertained. My desire for our church is not that you would come and be just entertained. We want we have wonderful worship. I think we have the best worship around. I do. We have fantastic worship. I love our worship, but it's not about entertainment. I'd rather have 10 people up here with tambourines that can't hold a beat and can't sing, but that are worshiping, if that's my choice. Because I want our experience with God to be real. I don't want you to come and just go through the motions with me. Sing a couple songs, clap each other, yay, pat each other on the back, feel good about ourselves, get a little message about how to be happy and raise your kids, which is all good. Those are all wonderful things. I want to be a better parent. But it's not about being entertained and massaged. That's what Pashur wanted. That's what he wanted. He wanted to gloss over those things that were important, but not Jeremiah. Jeremiah saw those who were broken. He saw those who needed God to change them and restore them. He saw the world around him as a place that is broken. He knew himself that he was broken. And he wanted those that didn't know God to know him in the way that he knew him. He hurt for them. He was broken for them. He wanted them to become who God wanted them to be. I desire for our church not to be a church that is self-centered, but a church that is God-centered. A church that isn't taking those that are broken and helping them become Spirit-filled followers of Jesus so they can in turn go and help someone else who is broken. If that's not what we're doing, why are we here? If that's not why we exist, what are we doing? That's why for the next few months you're going to hear this phrase over and over again as we begin to plan. Helping broken people become Spirit-filled followers of Jesus who help broken people. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. We've just never put it into words. We've never given clear opportunity for exactly how each and every one of us can do that. You need to do it. You need to do it. You need to do it. I don't care who you are or where you are or which group you're in or which age bracket you're in, which demographic, which education, it doesn't matter. We're here to help broken people become Spirit-filled followers of Jesus so they can help broken people. That's why we're here. That's why Jeremiah was here, to see the broken. He wanted to please God, and he wanted to be God-centered. In Luke chapter 4, everything changed for all of eternity. One day in the life of Jesus. Luke chapter 4 tells us of the story on a Sabbath day that was like many, many other Sabbath days in the life of Jesus there in Nazareth. He had been to the synagogue countless times. He was faithful. He went consistently. All growing up, he sat under rabbis. He grew in his understanding and knowledge. But this day that he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath, he went and he selected a scroll. And he unfurled the scroll. And if you think about it, it's amazing. Remember, the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. The Word himself unfurled the Word. And he went down to the section in in Isaiah. And Jesus read, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he rolled it back up and he sat down. He had said it all that needed to be said. He said, "I am here to heal the broken. I am here to set free those that are oppressed. I am here to set those that are blind, not just physically, but spiritually blind. I'm here to heal them, to set them free." It was his purpose. It was why he came, to set us free and have things change so much. Has our purpose changed as a church? If the purpose of Jesus Christ was that he came to heal that which was broken, to set the captives free, to take those things that are broken and put them back together as the potter molds and shapes into who he wants us to be. And it's us that go and proclaim Jesus. The broken, the blind, the oppressed. And we tell them, you can be healed, you can be set free, you can be mended. We can go to them and we can be Pashur and we can say everything is fine. Everything is okay. But Pashur was more concerned about the outside, about the polished exterior, about making sure that everything looked good on the outside, and who cares what was going on the inside. As long as you have a fresh coat of paint on it, as long as you polish it up, it doesn't matter if it runs or not, and it doesn't matter if it's rotted. At least it looks good on the outside. That was okay for Pashur, but it wasn't okay for Jeremiah. It's not okay for Jesus, and it's not okay for us. We're here to proclaim liberty to those who are held in captivity. We are here to tell those that are broken about Jesus Christ so that they can become Spirit-filled followers just like you and I. So they in turn can go and help those that are broken. There are people in your life that only you can reach. There are people that God has placed in your life that you can speak into their life that no one else can. God has put you there. And maybe God put you there to tell them about Jesus so they in turn can tell somebody that you could never tell. It's our purpose. It's why we're here. So we ask, do we want to be like Pashur and just tell ourselves everything is fine? Or are we like Jeremiah, who gladly lay down our own life for our friend? Greater love has no man that he would sacrifice himself. We can sacrifice ourselves for others. That's why you're here. That's why you heard about Jesus at one point in your life. So that others who are broken, because we're broken people. I'd ask you to raise your hand. Does anybody here have it all together? I'd ask you to raise your hand, but then you'd just be lying. Then we know you don't have it all together. We're just broken people. Just broken people. Tell another broken people they can have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And that it's not just a surface change. Because we don't care what's on the outside. Do you hear me? We don't care what's on the outside. We don't care what's on the outside. We don't care what's on, I'll say this all day until I get a response. We don't care what's on the outside. We want people changed from the inside out. Do you believe that? We want to help broken people become spirit-filled followers of Jesus who help broken people. I'm going to say that so much over the next coming, you'll be able to say it in your sleep.